Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Is the sound loud enough? Vindra, can we turn the main volume up a little? Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, text number 20 and 21. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, texts 20 to 21. Nanyer adishtitam padra Yad Brajishnu Druvakshiti Yatra Graharkshataranam Jyotisham Chakram Ahitam Medyam Go Chakravachtasnu Parastat Kalpavasinam Dharmogni Kashyapa Shukra Vunayoye Vanokasa Charanti Dakshini Kritya Ramanto Yat Sataraka Nanyeradishtitam Bhadra Yat Prajishnu Druvakshiti Yatra Graharkshataranam Jyotisham Chakram Ahitam Vedyam Ko Chakravachtasnu Parastat Kalpavasinam Dharmogni Kashyapa Shukra Vunayoye Vanokasa Charanti Dakshini Kritya Ramanto Yat Sataraka Nanyer Adishtitam Patra Yat Prajishnu Druvakshiti Yatra Graharkshataranam Jyotishitam Jyotisham chakram ahitam Medyam go chakravachtasnu Parastat kalpavasinam Dharmogni kashyapa shukro Munayo yevanokasa Charanti dakshini kritya Brahmanto yat sataraka. Ravindra. Nanyeradishtitam patra Yad Rajishnu Drivakshiti Yatra Graharkshataranam Jyotisham Chakram Ahitam. You can? Medyam Go Chakravachtasnu Parastat Kalpavasinam Dharmogni Kashyapa Shukro Munayo Yevanokasha Charanti Dakshini Kritya Brahmanto Yat Sataraka Nanyeradishtitam Patra Yat Prajishnu Juvakshiti Yatra Graharksha Kartaranam Jyotisham Chakram Ahitam Medyam Go Chakravachtasnu Parashtat Kalpavasinam Dharmogni Kashyapa Shukro Munayo Yevanokasa Charanti Dakshini Kritya Brahmanto Yat Sataraka Nanyeradishtitam Vaidra Yat Prajishnu Drivakshiti Yatra Graharkshataranam Jyotisham Chakram Ahitam Medyam Go Chakravachtasnu Prastat Kalpavisis Dharmogni Kashyapa Shukro Munayo Yevanokasha Charanti Dakshini Kritya Brahmanto Yat Sataraka. Na, never, anyai, by others, adishtitam, was ruled, Bhadra, my good boy, Yat, which, Rajishnu, brightly glowing, Dhruvakshiti, the land known as Dhruvaloka, Yatra, where, Raha, planets, Riksha, constellations, Taranam, and stars. Jyotisham, by luminaries. Chakram, encirclement. Ahitam, is done. Medium, around a central pole. Go, of bulls. Chakra, a multitude. Vat, like. Stashnu, stationary. Parastat, beyond. Kalpa, a day of Brahma, millennium. Vasinam, those who live. Dharma, dharma. Agni, agni. Kashyapa, kashyapa. Shukra, shukra. Munaya, great sages. Ye, all of them who. Vana, okasa, living in the forest. Charanti, move. Dakshini kritya, keeping it to their right. Brahmanta, circumambulating. Yat, which planet? Sataraka, with all the stars. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki! The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued. My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Purport. Although the pole star existed before its occupation by Dhruva Maharaj, it had no predominating deity. Dhruvaloka, our pole star, is the center for all other stars and solar systems. For all of them circle around Dhruvaloka just as a bull crushes grains by walking around and around a central pole. Dhruva wanted the best of all planets, and although it was a childish prayer, the Lord satisfied his demand. A small child may demand something from his father, which his father has never given to anyone else, yet out of affection the father offers it to the child. Similarly, this unique planet, Dhruvaloka, was offered to Maharaj Dhruva. The specific significance of this planet is that until the entire universe is annihilated, this planet will remain. Even during the devastation which takes place during the night of Lord Brahma, there are two kinds of dissolutions, one during the night of Lord Brahma and one at the end of Lord Brahma's life. At the end of Brahma's life, selected personalities go back home, back to Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj is one of them. The Lord assured Dhruva that he would exist beyond the partial dissolution of this universe. Thus, at the end of the complete dissolution, Dhruva Maharaj would go directly to Vaikuntha Loka, to a spiritual planet in the spiritual sky. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that Dhruva Loka is one of the lokas like Svetadvip, Mathura, and Dwarka. They are all eternal places in the kingdom of Godhead, which is described in the Bhagavad Gita, Tat Dharma Paramam, and in the Vedas, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Shurayam. The words Parastat Kalpa Vasinam, transcendental to the planets inhabited after the dissolution, refer to the Vaikuntha planets. In other words, Dhruva Maharaj's promotion to the Vaikuntha Lokas was guaranteed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can we turn the sound? The sound. Hare Krishna. So, let's go through the translation and purport again. So we're at a part where Dhruva Maharaj, after having been touched by the conch shell of the Lord and after having been given the mercy to be able to actually glorify the Lord, even though he's just a young boy, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead actually responds to him. And he actually glorifies Dhruva himself. He says, "My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart." So the Lord appreciates the penances and the austerities that Dhruva underwent. And the Lord can also understand why he underwent all of these penances, why he underwent all of these austerities and all of these vows. It's because he had this desire in his heart to get a kingdom greater than his grandfather's, greater than his father's. And then the Lord says, although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. So even though it's something very ambitious, very difficult, the Lord is actually willing to give Dhruva this benediction of fulfilling his desire, which is so difficult to attain. But before the Lord responds, actually, Dhruva expresses that he doesn't really desire it anymore. He says, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. So he does by seeing the Lord and by associating with the Lord, all of that desire that was in his heart actually became purified. But still the Lord reciprocated with him and gave him what he desired. And now we're on a text which explains what it is that Dhruva has actually received. What is that kingdom which is greater than his ancestors? It's described here. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, "My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all the others. So this pole star, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, was always existing, but it was unoccupied. There wasn't anyone residing there. There was no presiding deity of that planet. And this is the planet that was given to Dhruva Maharaj. So this planet, Dhruva Loka, it's actually, a pole star, not exactly a planet. It's a pole star. It's the central point around which all of the other planets circumambulate. And then Srila Prabhupada gives this example. It's like when a bull circumambulates to grind the grains. So in traditional villages, there used to be this kind of contraption where the bull was connected to the contraption, and then he would circumambulate this central milling system, and then by circumambulating, all of the grains were actually crushed. So in that same way, all of these planetary systems are rotating or circumambulating around this Dhruva Loka, which is like a central point. And then this example is given by Srila Prabhupada, that sometimes a child may want something from his father which no one else has ever received. And the father, because he has affection for his son, will actually give his son what he wants, whatever it may be. So in this case, Dhruva, he is just a small child approaching the Supreme Father, the Lord of the Universe, and he's asking for this bizarre benediction because he's just a young boy. And Krishna actually wants to fulfill that desire out of affection for him. And he does that. And so he awards this unique pole star, Dhruva Loka, to Dhruva Maharaj. And in a previous class we were talking about how sometimes the Lord will give great opulence to his devotee, but actually that opulence is meant only for his service. So on the one hand, he may give a great deal of opulence like he has here to Dhruva, because he understands that after seeing the Lord, Dhruva will not actually desire sense gratification anymore. And in receiving this wonderful benediction, he will actually utilize everything he has in the service of the Lord rather than just using it for sense gratification. So there is that on the one hand, where Krishna gives great opulence. And there was another example like that. Sudama, the Brahmana, who actually received a lot of wealth, a lot of opulence from the Lord after having nothing for so many years. It's explained in Krishna book that Sudama was poverty-stricken, and then suddenly he was given so much opulence by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then he actually recites a prayer which expresses that he's a bit fearful that now he has received great opulence. He's asking the Lord not to forget devotional service, not to forget the Lord, and not to just engage in sense gratification. And then it's explained there in Krishna book that if opulence is used for sense gratification, it is the cause of degradation. And if it is used for the service of the Lord, it is the cause of elevation. And then it's written there that how Sudama, he realized how kind Lord Krishna was to him, and he was always in trance, constantly thinking of Krishna. By such constant association with Lord Krishna, whatever darkness of material contamination remained within his heart was completely cleared away, and very shortly he was transferred to the spiritual kingdom, which is the goal of all saintly persons in the perfectional stage of life. So by being given this great opulence, he felt so grateful to the Lord that he was always meditating on the Lord. And here Dhruva as well, by being given this opulence, he felt, well, actually I'm seeing the real benediction is just your association. but still he was given this. So there is that on the one hand, and then on the other hand, it could be that sometimes Krishna takes away all possessions. And there's a text like that in the 10th canto, which says, "The personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way he suffers one distress after another." So one example of someone who had everything taken away was Bali Maharaj. The Lord actually took everything away. But he knows how to reciprocate with his devotees, exactly what is needed for them to surrender. It could be giving them everything, or it could be taking everything away. He knows what's best. He knows exactly what we require to come closer to him. He will always give us what we need to do our service, and even if we have nothing, we can still do our service. Like the Brahmana who just meditated on serving the Lord, and he cooked sweet rice, and just by cooking the sweet rice for the Lord, he actually ended up going back he received liberation. He got to reside with the Lord just by meditating on serving the Lord, even though he had nothing. So whether we have everything like Dhruva, or whether we have nothing like that Brahmana, still we can serve the Lord with whatever we have. And we should understand that whatever it is we do have is the perfect situation to surrender. It's the perfect situation to offer everything we have in the service of the Lord. And it's also explained in Krishna book that even when a devotee does ask for some opulence, the Lord sometimes doesn't give it because he's very cautious about his devotees. So if he knows that this opulence will take you away from him, he won't give it. Or on the other hand, if he sees that you'll be so grateful and use everything in his service, he may just give you opulence, but that's for him to decide. And either way, our material desires will be purified, however he decides to reciprocate with us. Whether he gives us everything or whether he takes everything away. In both cases, our hearts will be purified because he has seen that this is the way in which to do that. Okay. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that this planet, this Dhruvaloka, even it won't actually be annihilated during the partial annihilation of the universe, during the night of Lord Brahma. And then Prabhupada explains that there are two dissolutions. There's one dissolution during the night of Lord Brahma, and the other one which is at the end of Lord Brahma's life. So let's just take a look at all of that. So all of the yugas altogether consists of 4,320,000 years. That's one yuga cycle, and then that times 1,000 is actually 1 day of Lord Brahma. So that's 4,320,000,000 years. That's 1 day, just 1 day of Lord Brahma. And then that times 100 is actually how long Lord Brahma lives. And the number is so big that I'm not going to even try and say it. But it's so long. And this is all taking place just from the breath of Mahavishnu. So Lord Vishnu, he breathes out, and then all of these thousands and thousands and thousands of years are taking place just within one breath. And then when he breathes in, there's devastation. But there's partial devastation, and then there's complete devastation. So when Lord Brahma has his night, after the 4 trillion years, he has his night. And within that nighttime, there's partial devastation. So that means all of the living entities are brought back into the belly of Vishnu, and they actually reside there within him. But there are places within the material world which are very close to the Vaikuntha planets, which are not actually annihilated. So that's why it's called partial devastation. So many of the living entities will come back into the body of Vishnu, but there are those living entities which do not. And one example is Lord Brahma himself, and now it's explained here Dhruva as well. So he will remain alive even when this partial devastation takes place. So there's this Viraj river which divides the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, from the material world, and those planets which are closer to the spiritual realm are not annihilated at that time. But then at the end of Lord Brahma's life, after his 100 years, which is millions and millions of our years, then all living entities, including Lord Brahma, they are, and everything in the material realm is annihilated, except personalities like Lord Brahma and a few select personalities like Dhruva, it's also explained in the purport, actually get to go back to Vaikuntha at the end of that period of time of residing in this material realm. And then there are also those places which are eternally existing in the spiritual world and which reveal themselves here in this material world. And some examples are given here by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He comments that Dhruvaloka is a place like that. It's like Svetadvip and Mathura and Dwarka. So these places, they're all actually eternal places. These are actually places in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, which are never annihilated. But we see also that these places appear here in this material world. Like we can go to Mathura, we can go to Vrindavan, we can go to Jagannath Puri, we can go to these places here in Gokula Vrindavan, and then there's also Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world in Vaikuntha, and there are other places in Vaikuntha as well. And this Dhruvaloka is actually one of those places. So that's one of the places eternally existing there in the spiritual world, and then also being manifest here in the material realm for a long period of time. And then it's guaranteed to Dhruva, since this is his place of residence, that he will always reside there. So then it's guaranteed that at the end of Lord Brahma's life, when the total destruction takes place, or annihilation takes place, then he will go directly to Vaikuntha Loka, because this is his place of residence now, this place. So this is such a benediction that the Lord has given. Dhruva wanted this kingdom so great, and now he has given a kingdom eternally, not just temporarily, but eternally. He has given this central pivot of a place in the material world, which also continues to exist after devastation, because it's a spiritual place. It's an eternal place in Vaikuntha. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes 2 verses to explain a bit more about these places, like Dwarka and Mathura. Tattama Paramam, that's what he quotes. So that comes from Bhagavad Gita 15:6. And the translation there is, that supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So Dhruva, he's going to reach this place, which the Lord's abode, and he won't return back to this material world. And then he quotes another verse, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Shuraya Devi Vachakshuratatam Tat Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagrivam Saha Samindate Vishnu Yat Paramam Padam. And the translation there is, just as the sun's rays in the sky are extended to the mundane vision, So, in the same way, the wise and learned devotees always see the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, because those highly praiseworthy and spiritually awake brahmanas are able to see the spiritual world. They are also able to reveal that supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. That's from the Rig Veda. And then Srila Prabhupada ends the purport by saying that, in other words, Dhruva Maharaj's promotion to the Vaikuntha Lokas was guaranteed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj, he's just a 5-year-old boy. He's just a 5-year-old boy, but because the Lord could see how much determination Dhruva had to try and see him, He gave him everything. He gave him everything. If we and for us, we can understand, if we just try to make some small contribution, Krishna is so loving and so wonderful that he gives so much in return. And Dhruva really tried his best to see the Lord, and he did actually see the Lord. But he had to do that all under the guidance of his spiritual master. So if we really take shelter in the instructions of our spiritual master, and if we actually try to follow what Prabhupada has given us, then we also can see the Lord in this life. It is actually possible. His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj told me that it is possible. It is possible in this life to see the deities dancing. It is possible, provided we do follow what we have been given. And what is it that Dhruva had to do to see the Lord? He had to, for thousands and thousands of years, live off of very meager things to subsist on, like leaves, or in some cases air. He just lived off of air. So much penance, so much austerity, so much difficulty to see the Lord, to fulfill a material desire which the Lord purified. So if we can just follow something simple, like chanting Hare Krishna, having prasadam and dancing in kirtan, which is not so difficult actually, or it's simple, but it's not, okay, it's not easy, but it is simple. If we could just follow those simple regulations, we don't have to live off of leaves for thousands of years or air. We just have to chant and dance. It's so simple. If we can just do that and ask that those material desires in our hearts become purified, Krishna will definitely reciprocate with us. There's no doubt about that. Ye yate mam prapadyante tam sateva vajamiyaham. He will reciprocate with us. It's described that when we take one step to him, he comes running to us. So we can be inspired by Dhruva, how determined he was. And we can also remember that what Srila Prabhupada has given us is something very special. We don't even have to chant 64 rounds, which is what he previously wanted in the beginning. That's what he wanted, for us all to chant 64 rounds. And then he reduced that for us because he could understand that for us in Kali Yuga, that is very difficult. But we are so fortunate. We're so fortunate. And actually, we have been given something greater than this Dhruvaloka, in a sense, because we've been given the association of Srila Prabhupada, and we've been given an opportunity to attain a destination which we were never at before. We, by practicing under the umbrella of ISKCON, by practicing under Srila Prabhupada, by being introduced to Lord Chaitanya and his movement, we get to go to a destination that is so difficult to attain. So difficult. Just by chanting and dancing. That's it. So simple and so wonderful. Yeah, I think we'll end there. Srila Prabhupada ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Are there any questions, comments, corrections? Raghunath Prabhu?
I like that point that we don't have to chant 64 rounds. Because although we did at times, but I was just thinking how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur looked at 64 rounds. A little different from what we do also. We just chant 64 rounds. The way he looked at it, if the devotee was engaged the whole day in devotional service, it was 64 rounds. So therefore the standards were like sometimes 4 rounds for some people, depending on the person, what he was engaged in. It's a little different. So so we can be absorbed, doing some service, and that could be considered our 64 rounds. Thank you for that.
Oh, that's such a nice point, Raghunath Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I heard from Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj also that anything when we're engaging that in Krishna's service, that is Hari Kirtan. Whatever it may be, whatever service it is, that is Hari Kirtan. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande.